Celebrating 41 seasons on the air, Farm Week is a production of Mississippi State University Extension.
Today on Farm Week, reason for hope in trade talks with China. One representative says the U.S. is aiming to double previous exports.
Beefing up the Bulldawgs. With football season almost here, football players with no ag history milk the experience for all it's worth.
In that late summer heat, how to keep your plants from drying up and blowing away.
And ag sustainability, making a good living farming and having a good life to boot. Farm Week starts right now. Hello everyone, I'm Leighton Spann.
And I'm Mike Russell. Thanks for joining us today on Farm Week. The president's trade stance may be having an impact on China. Earlier he tweeted that America was built on tariffs. He said those tariffs are now leading to new trade deals. Negotiators say they hope to double exports. Here's John Torpy with more.
Tariff tensions between the world's two largest trading partners eased a bit this week, as negotiations between the U.S. and China are set to resume later this month. White House economic advisor Larry Kudlow, who has been on the front lines of trade negotiations with China, was optimistic about the upcoming talks, praising them as a step in the right direction.
My mantra is not talking. I mean, talking is always better than not talking. We haven't really had a sit down with them in quite some time at any level. So, who knows, but it's got to be a good thing.
The announcement comes on the heels of Kudlow's report to President Trump on the current state of the Chinese economy.
Business investment is collapsing in China, according to the numbers. Industrial production has fallen and now is plateauing at a low level. People are selling the currency. There may be some manipulation, but mostly I think investors are moving out of China because they don't like the economy, and they're coming to the USA because they like our economy. I'm not a China expert, although I'm boning up as fast as I can. I would just say right now their economy looks terrible.
Echoing President Trump's sentiments, U.S. Ambassador to China Terry Branstad blasted Chinese officials for hurting their own economy.
Well, I think it's very unfair what the Chinese have done, focusing on agriculture. They've not been fair in terms of their trading relationship for a long time. And so what we're trying to do is restore fairness and reciprocity. We have a goal of doubling ag exports over the next 5 years, and we're hoping that the Chinese will realize right now they're hurting their own consumers, because the Chinese consumer wants safe, reliable food and medicine, and they've had problems in both of those areas, and we have the ability to supply them with very safe, reliable food.
The American Farm Bureau Federation praised the invitation the White House extended to China. We are encouraged that the discussions are set to resume between the U.S. and China regarding trade concerns. We have been clear all along that we prefer negotiations to tariffs. It's our hope that the talks will lead to the removal of tariffs that are impacting U.S. agriculture exports and a better deal for everyone. Despite overtures of resolving the trade dispute, China launched a formal complaint with the World Trade Organization over U.S. tariffs on solar panels. The Chinese claim the 30% tax inappropriately helps U.S. manufacturers. For Market to Market, I'm John Torpy.
The already complicated and hotly debated Waters of the United States rule just became more so. A judge in South Carolina effectively erased a rule delaying the implementation of the controversial legislation. After WOTUS came to light in early 2015, the president signed an executive order to help rescind WOTUS until it could be clarified as to what is or isn't navigable waters. Now, though, WOTUS is in force in at least 26 states, including Mississippi. Farmers are among those challenging WOTUS, saying it undermines their control over their own land. It essentially pits agriculture against environmental groups.
If you need help getting control over your diet for any number of reasons, a new app might just be the thing for you. It's called Pinto, and it's the brainchild of a group of dietitian developers in New York. If you have special diet needs, it lets you scan any nutrition label and examine the ingredients you need. If you're diabetic, for example, Pinto will see if a specific product has added sugars and fiber compared to carbs. CEO and co-founder Sam Slover told me exactly what kind of control Pinto gives you.
Some people are following very specific diets. Like let's say you're managing a heart health condition or you have diabetes. Other people maybe need to eliminate certain ingredients from food or have allergies and need to be aware of them. Every app treats us all as if we're the exact same person with the exact same needs, and that's really outdated. So what we're excited about and what the mission is can we build a tool that understands who the end user is and what they need when it comes to diet and nutrition and can adapt around those needs.
You might think most college students in the South have been exposed to agriculture in some way, but that's not necessarily the case. So with football season almost here, it seems fitting to literally give the Mississippi State football team a taste of farm life.
In case you're wondering about what you see, yes, it is what it looks like. At the recent Beefing Up the Bulldawgs event, the football team got a glimpse of the agricultural side of Mississippi State University.
A lot of the players are agricultural majors, but those that aren't maybe come from an urban environment, and so they need to understand what goes into producing their food, what we as cattle producers, what we as farmers go through every day to provide a good, nutritious product for them to eat. They're athletes. They've got to fuel their bodies even more so than you and I do on a daily basis because they're just more active. So we talk to them about the protein benefits, the vitamins that beef provides to them, and what we as farmers just do to get that food to them every day.
Here at the Leo Seal Jr. Football Complex at Mississippi State, football players are about to get treated to an amazing steak dinner and also some really fun agriculture activities. And you guessed it, that means a little friendly competition with a milking contest.
No, they were teasing me because they say because I'm from up north that I wouldn't have. And it sounded like we have some guys on the team that have done this kind of thing before, and I got matched up with Jeffrey Simmons on the milking contest and lost. So that's one of the great things about football, that you bring people together from a bunch of different backgrounds and environments, and I think that tonight's a great example of that. Every department in every area of Mississippi State plays a vital role in its success, and I think certainly seeing what other people do outside of athletics and getting a glimpse into their world is always something that's interesting.
Beefing Up the Bulldawgs is an annual event hosted by the Mississippi Cattlemen's Association. Reporting from Mississippi State University, I'm Amy Myers.
Do you struggle with plants that dry up and blow away in the late summer heat? In this week's Southern Gardening, Gary Bachman shows us how gardeners can manage hot and harsh conditions with containers.
In the heat of the summer season, one of my favorite gardening activities is creating colorful combination containers that'll look good on any patio. Today's Southern Gardening is visiting the back patio landscape of master gardeners Terry and Jeff. I'm so impressed that Jeff built this gorgeous pergola structure that creates the perfect setting to relax around the center focal point fireplace. Colorful combination containers are the perfect choice to add color and interest. I love this set of blue ceramic containers, different sizes and set on different levels. The purple scaevola complements the blue veronica and pink tamari verbena. I really like the lacy leafed verbena that I call that funky blue verbena. My favorite summer color combos have to include Diamond Frost Euphorbia and Dusty Miller. Along with the Victoria Blue Salvia, the combination of these cool colors helps to highlight the brightness of the pink tamari verbena and the bright golden yellow of the creeping Jenny. Not all containers need to be on the ground, like this core basket cart. The arching growth of red dragonwing begonia is perfect paired with the Indian summer coleus. Many patios use paver walls to line landscape beds, And I don't think there's anything better than the golden orange-yellow flowers of spreading sunset lantana. While it's not grown in a container, lantana is a hot weather loving plant that will spill over the wall and soften the hard edges. So use your imagination and create combination containers to brighten your porch or patio. I'm horticulturist Gary Bachman, and I'll see you next time on Southern Gardening.
In the markets, rice production getting a little punch in the right direction, both nationwide and in the Mid-South.
That's right, and other commodities, Mike, also in our market headlines this week, cotton producers deal with lower prices. Traders warn that there is no upside for corn and other grains, while feeder cattle prices are holding up well due to lower feed cost. Extension's Emeritus Ag Economist O.A. Cleveland says the cotton market has been in the doldrums ever since that August 10th supply-demand report came out, with, as he put it, bear tracks all over it. But as we record this edition of Farm Week, cotton merchants are anticipating good things to emerge from the China-U.S. trade talks, the preliminary talks now underway through Thursday. DTN reports that if these talks go well, there's a high probability President Trump and the President of China will meet in November to sign a new trade deal. But then again, the talks may not go well. Well, that big ag supply-demand report we mentioned earlier this month that put cotton in the doldrums also contained a surprise for the corn market. The big U.S. crop, it's getting bigger. Extension's Josh Maples tells us how this news takes away any hope of more upside for corn prices.
Projected production per acre up to 178, over 178 bushels per acre. This was up about 4 bushels compared to the same estimate a month ago. This would be a record production per acre, and this drove to an increase in projected ending stocks and more corn out there on the market. Similar story to soybeans. We just saw we're seeing those great growing conditions lead to really high expected yields.
Is there going to be too much corn out there given these numbers if they hold true? Is that going to hurt the market?
There's going to be a lot of corn and soybeans too, for that matter. But it's also an environment where it's hard to see a lot of price upside, just giving the large expected supplies that we see. Corn prices are relatively low right now, but with the larger supplies, there's not a lot to suggest that we're going to see a big run up.
Larger supplies of rice are also being forecast for this year, primarily because planted acreage is up. Ag economist Larry Falconer in Stoneville says Mississippi rice acreage is up about 23% compared to a year ago. The total is about 150,000 acres. The good news is that rice exports are also projected to be up about 8% from 2017. As Falconer puts it, we depend on exports to carry the ball for rice. Well, as we approach the end of August, let's make a quick check of crop progress in the state of Mississippi, beginning with corn. 69% of the crop, it's said to be in good to excellent condition as of last Sunday. Mississippi cotton is doing even better. 73% of the crop is described as good to excellent. Meanwhile, pasture conditions are not quite as robust. 71% of the peanuts, meanwhile, are in good condition, and 76% of the state's rice is listed good to excellent. Turning to soybeans, 70% of the crop is good to excellent, and 61% of Mississippi sweet potatoes are in good to excellent condition. We move from lots of numbers to our trivia quiz here on Farm Week. Our question, it's about producing ethanol from corn, which is then blended with gasoline. Here's the question: what state has the most ethanol plants in the U.S.? Is the answer A, Iowa, B, California, C, Nebraska, or D, Illinois? We'll have the answer for you coming up.
We'll take a break here, but don't go away. Coming up on our Farm Week feature, folks all over the country love their fresh produce. They also support those who grow that produce in an eco-friendly way known as sustainable agriculture. In Mississippi, one group stands out in support of those would-be small farmers who want to grow their produce responsibly, the Alliance of Sustainable Farms. More about this group coming up on Farm Week.
Infinite Impact began with the goal of raising $600 million. And through your generous gifts, we surpassed that goal faster than anyone thought possible. But now, we have set our standards higher And spread our vision further. Infinite Impact offers infinite possibilities. And it all begins with a single step, a single accomplishment, a single victory, or even a single goal. 1 billion begins with one.
Before we get to the market report, let's take a look at the Farm Week calendar. On Thursday, August 30th, a sweet potato field day at the Pontotoc Experiment Station starting at 8:30 a.m. Topics include herbicide drift, soil fertility, insect and weed management, sweet potato breeding, and more. The event is free. Registration begins at 8 a.m. and there's a steak luncheon. Continuing education credits are available. For more information, call Stephen Myers at 662-769-9917. Next, September is Mississippi Rice Month, recognizing the contribution rice makes to America's economy. On Friday, September 14th, from 11 to 1 p.m., Think Rice at the 28th Annual Celebration of Mississippi Rice Month. The luncheon is at Sillers Coliseum at Delta State University. Tickets are $5 and you can buy them by calling the Bolivar County Extension Office at 662-843-8371. Tickets will also be available at the door.
We begin the second half of the markets with aquaculture, where pondback fish prices for catfish remain below $1 per pound for premium-sized fish. These numbers reflect the U.S. market in the month of July. Farm sales totaled just over 27 million pounds round weight. That is up 10% from this time in 2017. Processor sales were 13 million pounds, an increase of a little more than 1.5% from 1 year ago. The chatter leading up to the new trade negotiations between the U.S. and China this week only served to fuel an already volatile hog market. Lean hog futures were showing 65 to 75 cent losses in the front months Tuesday afternoon after being sharply higher back at the weekend. But earlier in the month, things were really bad.
What's the word for a nosedive in hogs? Perhaps it's a snout dive. I mean, it's just going down and down and down. You see the actual cash market going down 40, 60 cents every day. The index going down $1 a day, and the futures just have to follow that cash news. However, they have pulled back, 25%, and it could be a scenario like soybeans where the market pulls back because of tariffs news. So it could be that the futures market pulls back to a certain price and decides that we've priced in the tariff news, and maybe it can form a bottom and bounce back up, just like soybeans did.
The cattle complex is dealing with some uneven price action as well. DTN's John Harrington says it's due to uncertainty surrounding late summer beef supply and demand. However, cheap grain is helping the feeder cattle market some, according to trader Tom Fitzenmeyer.
That market tends to be driven quite a bit by feed costs, and feed costs are obviously down quite a bit with corn as cheap as it is. So I think those are going to hold on up fairly well. And again, I think the beef fat price is probably going to hang in there for. I don't see it falling apart, but I just would sell rallies.
Back to the trivia quiz now to close out the markets for this week. Our question had to do with making fuel ethanol from corn. And the answer is A. The state of Iowa has the most ethanol plants in the U.S. Iowa's 41 ethanol plants produce about 19% of all U.S. ethanol production. Consumer demand for local fresh produce continues to grow, and so does the interest in sustainable agriculture, maintaining an ecological balance by growing crops without depleting natural resources. In Mississippi, one organization has evolved to support and expand that movement, the Alliance of Sustainable Farms. They're all about teaching others how you can make a good living and have a good life farming on as little as 1 acre of ground. With the help of Extension and other sponsors, the Alliance is using field days as its main means of outreach and education.
I think of sustainability in terms of water conservation and improving the land, and we've been doing that for about 10 years.
Leanne Hines of Greenwood, Mississippi is a small farmer who likes to share her passion for sustainable production with others. This day, Leanne is hosting a field day on her farm in the Delta for the Alliance of Sustainable Farms organization. Leanne Hines is no newcomer to agriculture. She grew up with cotton. But it's how she farms now that makes this farm sustainable and a perfect setting for this Alliance Field Day. Leanne has a lot to show her guests.
I have a couple of water collection systems. I use pastured poultry to improve the fertility of my land. And I also have an NRCS high tunnel, which I'm very proud of. And we're doing a composting demonstration today to show what you can do with what you have, because as you can see, I have an abundance of oak trees, and the oak tree leaves make great compost.
The idea of producing food locally using sustainable practices is appealing to a wide variety of people, such as Rachel Harvey of Greenwood. Rachel works part-time for Leanne Hines at Levy Run Farms. Leanne is also a mentor for Rachel's local ministry of planting gardens instead of grass in the Greenwood community.
Before I moved to the Delta, people always talked about that the soil here is so fertile, and so you can just stick some seeds and they'll grow. But then when it comes to farming sustainably or using organic principles, I found that there weren't as many options. So I'm really thankful that Leanne is here, that she's not only a farmer but an educator. And I think it's really great that her and the Alliance provide some way for people to get exposure to different ways of relating to the earth.
The production of flowers and herbs is the latest addition to what's being grown sustainably at Levy Run Farms. Vegetables continue to be important too, but Leanne Hines says it's the pastured chicken and laying hens that really bring people to her farm gate every week.
The first year I went to the farmers markets, I had plants and vegetables, and everybody who walked by said, "Where are the fresh farm eggs?" So that was back in the day when the farmers markets were really kicking off back in 08 and 09. And, so I stepped up the egg production. I said, "Oh, eggs, I can figure that out."
This field day in Greenwood also featured the sustainable production of fruit. Old heirloom varieties are coming back into favor now as the preferred way to obtain the best results.
Rather than modern fruit, a lot of us fruit growers that want to grow organically, we're looking at the old heirloom fruit, stuff that was grown before the Green Revolution, before we had all these chemicals, that was grown for hundreds of years before they had sprays, and they produced. And maybe they will again, we hope.
We have a lot of wonderful partners, a lot of host farms like this all over the state that's working with us. A lot of experienced farmers and growers come together, and that's really the magic of what we're doing, is collaboration, is working together. And that's really what sustainability is.
Another example of the type of educational event the Alliance organization sponsors multiple times throughout the year took place near Philadelphia at Choctaw Fresh Produce, a tribal business of the Mississippi Band of Choctaw Indians. The focus at this workshop is on organic food production and how a producer applies for organic certification. This is one of 5 organic farms the tribe operates in a 3-county region of central Mississippi. There are a total of 18 high tunnels in production.
We've gotten down to about 5 to 7 different vegetables that we're trying to grow mainly, but we have grown, 15 different things. And we're certified to grow over 20 different vegetables, but it depends on if we're going to do a CSA or who we're selling to, what we're growing.
The main organic crops here in the reservation high tunnel facilities are tomatoes and cucumbers, and a lot of the production is purchased by the Choctaw casino operations. In addition to general field days and ones focusing on organic production, there have also been Alliance workshops on other topics. This one in North Mississippi provided information on the setup and operation of irrigation systems for a small farm. It took place in Boonville on the campus of Jumpertown High School. No matter where in the state these events happen, the idea of sustainable food production is attracting people of all ages and all types of backgrounds.
I plan to use the education that I got from the people in there to eventually start my own garden at my house and to use that to better further my knowledge of farming. We are the future of agriculture, and we should be able to come to these field days and events so we can learn.
During a typical year, the Alliance of Sustainable Farms presents at least 8 educational programs throughout Mississippi. The emphasis at each event is on hands-on training that promotes the use of sustainable practices in small-scale ag production. The next scheduled Alliance program is coming up the first week of September. The focus is on expanding markets by selling directly to consumers through social media. It takes place at the Demonstration Farm in Piney Woods September 4th and will be repeated September 5th on the reservation in Choctaw in Neshoba County.
It's amazing how much you can create with so little.
It certainly is, and that's just part of what the Alliance teaches, Mike. Their scope is indeed tremendous. Next week on Farm Week, another success story. We make a return visit to a top Mississippi cattle operation. More than 20 years since Farm Week's visit, Rogers Bar HR is still family owned and operated.
And they have lowered costs without sacrificing the quality of their purebred Chevrolet cattle herd. You'll hear all about it from owner Doug Rogers. That's next time on Farm Week.
And remember, if you miss a story, you can find past episodes of Farm Week at our website, msuext.ms/farmweek.
And as always, don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Twitter as well. We'll see you next week. Thanks for watching.